Welcome back to the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network. For those of you that listen to this network and the programs that reside on this network, my voice should be familiar. My name is Davidson Baker. I am a former panelist on Between the Links. I've done shows with Blaine Henry and Drake Riggs, as well as guested with Keith Schillen from time to time. And if you have also been listening to this network consistently, you would recognize this program as well as one of the men that is joining me today. But another new face is joining us as well. Mr. Marcell Dorff, who joined the man that I respect and like very much so myself, Max Friedman, sat alongside him. How many breakdowns did you guys do? Mr. Marcell Dorff joining us tonight, today, whatever you want to call it, wherever you are. How many breakdowns did you and Max do?
I don't know, honestly, man. Maybe for 1.5 years. So
yeah, man.
On it for yourself. I don't know, man. I think
that's
around
60, 70 cards.
Maybe, yeah.
It's impressive, though. It's impressive. Marcell, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for this kind of a new show, I guess. I mean, a new start without Max. Looking forward to break these cards down with you guys. So, yeah. Great being here. And how are yourself doing, man?
Dude, I'm good. And I wanted to say too, Max is a dude that I like and respect very much. I met him in person in Chicago. He's a really awesome dude. All the best of luck to him in the future in his endeavors as well. And also joining us tonight from MMA Oddsbreaker, he does a weekly preview show on my podcast with me every Thursday. His name is AJ Schullo. Like I said before, he represents MMA Oddsbreaker. AJ, how are you doing, my man, up in the Illinois area?
Doing well. We're doubling down on the previews for the
dude.
Card. Good times to break this down with you, and glad to be joined by Marcell. We each have a unique perspective and ready to dive into these fights with you guys.
I'm ready to get into it too. This has been, I've been saying going into it, this has been my favorite fight card of the four. I mean, obviously, if you throw out UFC 251, which was pretty stacked. If you go through the 3 Fight Island cards, this one is probably my favorite one from top to bottom. And man, it'll take you a second to get from top to bottom. There are 15 fights now on this card after the late edition ad of Khamzat Chimaev and Reese McKee. Reese McKee, for those that are of the hardcore variety, you should know who Reese McKee is. He's fought in Cage Warriors in Bama, pretty much everywhere along the European circuit. Has piled up some nice wins, 3 wins in a row by finish. He'll step up and face the monster that is Khamzat Chimaev. But that's the first fight on the main card. We'll go ahead and start from the bottom before we get to the top, obviously. John Castaneda and Nathaniel Wood at 135 pounds is where we begin. And obviously that being somewhat of a late addition after Umar Nurmagomedov fell out. Minus 400 right now for Nathaniel Wood, plus 300 for John Castaneda. AJ, I'll go ahead and let you kick it off, man. Like, what do you see in this fight early? Castaneda coming in, making his debut. He wants to make a good impression.
Absolutely. Like you said, Castaneda, in addition to this tough circumstance of, as you mentioned, making this fight on very short notice, this is his UFC debut, and he actually has not fought in over a year. According to Tapology, April 2019 was his last bout appearance here, and as you mentioned, fighting Nathaniel Wood, who currently sits as a minus 425 favorite, one of the biggest favorites on the card. Nathaniel Wood looking to bounce back after a tough loss to Dotson in a fight that was very competitive up until the stoppage there in the third round. I'm looking forward to seeing Nathaniel Wood bounce back. This is a matchup that he's projected to win for the odds. And based off what I've seen from Castaneda, this is a guy that likes to bring it, very durable, fights hard, pretty good striker. So really looking forward to the strikers for life here.
Mr. Marcell.
Yeah, man, I think it's a difficult fight for Castaneda to make his debut short notice, He fought at the Contender Series against Shaden with a name I'm not going to pronounce. And I know he won that fight. That's such an I always have to double check how to write it actually.
Right.
So yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, he went to Combate, he did very well there. But I think, man, Wood is a guy who we can see a future top 15 guy, man, definitely, man, And he got a setback with Dotson in his last fight, but this is, I think it's a perfect fight for him to get back on track, and I'm definitely taking Wood here.
He didn't look bad in the Dotson fight,
no,
whatsoever. He looked really good, and the stoppage came 16 seconds into round 3. It was kind of right, just as people getting right back to the couch, just as people really paying and calibrating their attention right back, boom. flash shot, down went Wood, and some solid finishing shots after that. But 8 wins in a row by finish leading up to that fight as well. And I mean, dude, one of my favorite fights I've ever seen, the fight with Josh Reed in Cage Warriors, where he looks almost done for. He looks like he is just about to go for broke, talking about Josh Reed, and get the finish, who was undefeated at the time. And man, did the tides turn quickly.
Yeah.
He can brawl, man.
You want a funny thing on that one?
Yeah.
The referee gave Wood a lot of time to get
I thought
back
that
on
to
track.
myself.
But the other way around didn't.
Yeah, I've thought that to myself. He didn't give Reed even close to as much time as he gave Wood. That is very true. I agree with that. Nonetheless, 8 wins in a row by stoppage. You know, I mean, I'm gonna go with Wood here as well. I think it's just too tough of a fight on short notice for Castaneda to make. Schullo, do you have any other remarks?
No, just to put a bow on it, I think Dodson was just too much too soon for Wood. And like you guys said, it was a very competitive fight up until that point. So despite a loss to a very good fighter in John Dodson, I still do think, to Marcell's point, that he certainly has high upside, perhaps a crack in the top 15.
Let's just see what Castaneda can do on a full camp in the future, as well as a German fighter who's going to be making his debut on somewhat short notice as well after Shavkat Rakhmonov withdrew. It was Nicholas Stolze, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Marcel, am I getting that right?
Nicholas Stolze, I think.
Nicholas Stolze, yeah.
Yes.
He's going to be taking on Ramazan Emeev. Emeev has been known to, so far at least in the UFC, outside of his last fight, which was a loss to Anthony Rocco Martin, he's really brought it to some guys. I mean, he's absolutely dominated the likes of Alberto Mina, Stefan Sekulic. Man, he brutalized Sam Alvey. I think that was that at 185? Yeah, that was at 185. Just a beast when it gets in close quarters and in the clinch. Marcel, what do you got to add here? And maybe potentially, if you know something that potentially others might not, against the man in the blue corner, Stolze. Because I gotta admit, my knowledge is limited on this guy.
Mine is pretty much as well, man. I know he's on a 4-fight win streak. He fought at Octagon, which is a Czech organization, a pretty good Czech organization. He won against Jan Janka over there. But yeah, my knowledge about him is limited as well. I know he fought at Bama, but he lost twice over there against Terry Brazier and against Chris Stringer. I know he won against Christian Draxler. I don't know if that's the brother of Julian Draxler, but now we got the Ramazan Emeev. Yeah, he's a good fighter overall, man. But what you saw against Anthony Rocco Martin, he didn't have that. That was a fight for him to maybe enter the top 15 or come close to the top 15, and he didn't show it there, in my opinion. And he lost a unanimous decision. So the thing is, I think Emeev will be around the 15-20 spot. And I don't see Stolze winning at all. I think Emeev takes the home unanimous decision.
Did you say his name rhymes with Draxler, like James Draxler?
No, man. I say what's that? Christian Draxler. He beat him, and Draxler is also a football player. Remember?
Yeah, for sure.
So I said maybe his brother. I was just kidding, man.
The guy that used to play for Schalke, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
AJ, your thoughts?
Yeah, Emeev is a minus 380 favorite to come back on. Stolze is plus 315. You know, this is a matchup where we kind of touched on the bottom line. Your podcast, Davidson, where you thought this was going to be a grinded out win for Emeev. I tend to agree. I did a little homework on Stolze here. He looks like a pretty good striker. He's got some submission grappling chops himself. But to your point, I do notice that he does tend to back himself in defense, gives up the clinch a lot, and can be taken down, and that's right what Emeev wants you to do. Despite a loss to Rocco Martin, as you guys have mentioned, I still do think he's a solid talent, and he should be on track to get another win here, probably in a decision scenario, because that's the type of fighter that he is. He does have some pretty heavy hands, especially with right hand, but I tend to think that it more likely goes to a decision where we see Emeev get his hand raised and get right back on track.
Couldn't agree more. Man, that's an impressive win for Mr. Rocco Martin when you think about it too. Moving up the ladder to some ranked fighter competition, if you'd like to call it that. Number 14, I believe. Number 14 ranked by the UFC, Betch Kohea taking on Pani Kianzad. Kianzad I believe, has fought at 145 pounds at least once since making her UFC debut, which I think was against Macy Chasson, at the tough finale. Coming off of that win over Jessica Rose Clark, though, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Marcel, I'll let you kick it off.
Man, yeah, such a tough fight to pick in my opinion, man. I mean, Beth Correa, yeah, I'm honestly not really impressed by her very often, but she did look very good against Sijara Eubanks, to be honest. So, I mean, Penny Kianzad, like you said, she defeated Jessica Rose Clark. I've always been pretty high on Penny Kianzad, to be honest, man, but I was kind of disappointed in her final against Macy Chasson, honestly, but, Macy showed that she's definitely a top 15 girl in the division where she's fighting right now. Kianzad, I'm still a little bit disappointed that she changed her nickname from Sexy Scramble to Banzai, but yeah, whatever. I'm taking Fanny Kianzad by the closest of split decision in this fight.
AJ.
Yeah, I think Marcel hit the nail right on the head. I think it should probably be competitive in the odds if you do that as well. Kianzad minus 145 and come back on Correa is plus 125. You know, I was really impressed with how Kianzad, per UFCstats.com, landed 98 significant strikes in that last bout. Like you guys said, against Jessica Rose Clark. I believe that was in Russia. So she definitely had a good bounce back performance there. After having two tougher first two UFC fights, the tough winner in Macy Chiasson, who's looked good inside the UFC's octagon, and then also Julia Avila, who we recall breaking down a few weeks ago, who looked outstanding and has certainly some upside. So despite two fights to enter the UFC, I do think that Kianzad, her two most recent fights, these are more winnable matches for her, and one where she probably gets it done inside of a decision scenario. But one where, to your point, I can see Correa making it competitive just due to her tenacity and just the fact that she has, no doubt about it, been there against a much higher level of opposition. So should be a fun one, a little back and forth fight that goes to the scorecards, but I think Kianzad should get her hand raised as well.
Should be interesting to see. I believe Kianzad gets the win here too. Marcel, what was your pick?
Yeah, Kianzad by split decision, but let's be honest, we just all three don't want to see Correa twerk.
We don't?
Oh, you will. You won't. Okay.
Who says we don't? Speak for yourself, bro.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Hey, man. I mean, I give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, okay, you do that. Okay. If you want. What do you think, AJ? You're very quiet here.
Just smiling and waving. He's like, I'm not going to comment.
Yeah, no comment. That's it.
Oh,
no
come on.
I'm in. However, I don't think we will see it. I think Kianzad gets her hand raised. But you're going with Correa? There's our first official disagreement.
I'll go with Kianzad, I said.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Word. We move on to the heavyweight division, and the quake of one Cyril Gane has left itself very imminent in this short notice bout that has materialized after one Justin Tafa withdrew. Tanner Boser steps in with an attempt to save the day against Rafael Pessoa. This is a pretty tough matchup for Boser, I think. He looked exquisite against Felipe Lins a couple of weeks ago. I think he hit him with 7 or 8 straight shots, and they all landed clean.
He didn't get a performance bonus.
Which still bothers me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. AJ, I'll let you kick it off with this one.
Yeah, Boser minus 250 favorite, currently, and Pessoa is plus 210. You know, this is really nice to see Boser get a quick turnaround. I was really impressed with how he looked there in that last bout. I'm pretty high on him as a heavyweight fighter, you know. Gane is just a really bad matchup for him, but I really like Boser's footwork and movement on the outside. He really knows what it takes to win rounds and stick and move and not exchange too much and kind of just land volume. And he's really durable as well. That's kind of like, I guess, the thing that can be improved with his game is he's not generally known as a huge finisher for heavyweight standards, but, you know, the guy knows how to get the job done on a round-to-round basis. So I tend to favor him here as well. I do think that he should probably outpoint Pessoa over the course of 3 rounds. Pessoa is durable, just like Boser is as well. And like you mentioned right off the top, their only losses respectively inside the UFC's octagon is to a very talented and hyped Warrington, that is
future champ.
Yeah, and so I think that we could get a good showing by both guys here, and one that should be pretty fun, I think. It should play out for 3 rounds despite it being a heavyweight fight.
I hate to take a conversation in a direction that has nothing to do with either guys, but Cyril Gane is so good. He's so good. I think in my opinion, do I have any disagreements there? I mean, dude, Pessoa was 9-0 and looked good on the regional circuit before he fought Gane. And people would have imagined, at least if you would have watched Gane on the regional circuit as well, I mean, holy hell, look at this massive man displaying all of this Muay Thai in our face, like the whole time. And Gane submits him with an arm triangle in the first round at 3-0. Come on, man. That doesn't happen, in my opinion.
Well, and I believe that it was ultra impressive too because Pessoa, I believe, has BJJ credentials. So like,
that's what, yeah, right. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, like I said, I hate to take it in that direction. Where are you going with this, Marcel? I'm tough on this one. I don't know where to lean. I like Bozer's upside after that last fight, but man, Pessoa's pretty good too.
Dude, Bozer looks like a mean dude with tooth out. He could give him a hockey stick, put him on ice, and he's a hockey player.
I swear.
I mean, damn, he looked good in that Lens fight, man. He really looked good in that fight. He actually hasn't looked bad in the UFC, in my opinion. Yeah, he got decision by Cyril Gane, but I don't think that's bad at all, you know. I have to go with him, man. I'm not really impressed with Bebizao, with Pessoa. I think he's not bad, but I haven't seen anything really impressive so far. I mean, he has a win over Jeff Hughes, which was not a great fight in my opinion. I know it was the opener from the Chinese, I think the Shenzhen card, if I'm correct, or a Singapore card. I know it was early morning and I almost fell asleep back again, so it wasn't a great fight if I can remember. But I'm taking Tanner Bozer. I think he knocks him out in the second round.
I'm gonna go with a shock opposition here, just because I like the prospects of a full camp for Pessoa, or at least somewhat of a full camp, a longer camp. And obviously the change up in styles is there. Tafa a little bit more of a heavy striker, Bozer a lot more technicality in his game, but I will go with Pessoa here. There's our first disagreement. How about that?
No complaints here.
Mr. Marcel, any more thoughts?
No, I said what I want to say, man. Bozer, around KO. I mean, well, what else can I say about it?
Nothing else, man. We're moving up along to 145 pounds. This is one of my favorite fights on the card, in my opinion. Movsar Evloev has been very impressive so far. Really, in his entire career, he was a killer in M1. Mike Grundy, though, has held his own as well, 12-1. It is 12-0 against 12-1, respectively, Evloev to Grundy. Marcel, I'll let you kick this one off.
Yeah, let's say it how Darren Till would say it against his friend. Mike Grundy against
or
Movsar.
Mike Baldy Ed Grundy.
Yeah, against Marcell Dorff. Yeah, this fight was supposed to happen last year in Shenzhen, but fell through. Since then, Evloev has got a win against Arita Barzola, which was really impressive in my opinion, because I think Barzola is very happy with his wrestling all the time, and Evloev did pretty well in that fight. Grundy, we haven't seen him back since his win against Nat Narimani, a very good UFC debut win. This is a 50-50 fight, man. I mean, very hard to pick, but boy, I can't go against Evloev, man. You know, Evloev has been one of my favorite fighters for like a few years when I'm watching M1 Global. Dude is solid. Went to the UFC, not at 135, now at 145. He will stay there. He was 135 champion in M1 Global. So, I'm taking Evloev, man, by a decision. But it will be competitive. Very
quickly, before I throw it over to AJ, correct me if I'm wrong, but he got in a motorcycle accident this year, right?
Yeah, not really. It was a very bad reported by many people. It was not really a motorcycle. It was like you know those things they have in Thailand where they have those scooter things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, those kind of things. Not really a big motorcycle accident, but yeah. because I double checked it, and one of his representatives is like, dude, that was not a motorcycle accident. What you're talking about? It's like it's all over the websites, everywhere. And they showed me actually the picture of it.
but the injuries sustained though were significant enough for him because he pulled out and was supposed to be on that Adesanya Romero card.
100%, yeah.
Gotcha.
Against Jamal Amos, I think also.
Yeah, that would have been a great fight. I'll throw it over to you, AJ.
Yeah, what you guys just talked about is definitely, I guess, like an intangible, something to consider on the Evloev side. Just like you guys, I'm really high on him too. Really good prospect here, really good wrestler, and I also like that he's been doing work in Tiger Muay Thai with the likes of Mirvet Tysonov and Kriyan, which I think is huge to be honest. And he's really young and improving, kind of like Peruvian last week. I just am high on him. And then on the Grundy side, a common trend, I guess, with some of the fighters on this card is Grundy, like some other fighters here, has not fought in over a year plus. Like you guys mentioned, the Narimani fight, that was in March of last year. So while I really like Grundy as a fighter, I really like his wrestling credentials. Commonwealth bronze medalist, I believe. And obviously, we just saw in his UFC debut, he's got heavy hands. I thought his striking looked pretty sharp there. And I do think that we could see some kind of like neutralizing in a sense in terms of like the wrestling. Like Evloev, I think is the better wrestler of the two, but I don't think that the takedowns will come easy, kind of like the Barzola fight. And Grundy, I think, has the potential to kind of like wear down Evloev down the stretch. Should be a competitive fight. But like you guys, I'm going to lean with Evloev here. As I think he's going to be a bit more polished of the two, and I think that the improvements that he's going to make on a fight-to-fight basis, considering his age and where he's training, are going to be more pronounced than, say, your average fighter. So I'm high on him in general. I like both guys, but I think Evloev edges it out here. Probably a decision scenario.
That's probably the route I'm going. Marcel, do you agree?
What?
Evloev by decision.
Yeah, I have the same.
Yeah. Moving up to two heavyweight fights on this prelim. The guy that's been looking to get back into the cage for a while and has not had very much luck in doing so is former Cage Warriors heavyweight, Tom Aspinall. He takes on Jake Collier, who, I mean, hey, that same kind of narrative can be thrown out for him as well. He's been looking to get back in there for a while. I would have to imagine injuries have sidelined him for the better part of almost 3 years. AJ, you can go ahead and kick this one off, or I'll even throw a question your way with this one. You, me, and Marcel, I mean all three of us are big tape guys. Like we watch a lot of fights. What is there difficulty in trying to assess how a guy is going to perform going into a card when he hasn't fought in almost 3 years?
Absolutely, yeah. It adds that extra variance. There was a couple fighters in the past couple cards here where there's been scenarios like that, and like you said with Tom here, the guy on his tape, he's going out there and getting quick finishes, which is great. It's nice knowing that he's got heavy hands. He's certainly a good submission grappler. Per his Instagram, he is a black belt. But that said, it's kind of like Carlos Felipe in a way. Last card, where like I would like to see him pushed past the first round with more frequency, so we could see more wrinkles to his game. But from what I could tell, like I do think he has the potential to knock Collier out. Collier's been finished via strikes before, and like you said, just like some other fighters, he's been out even longer. The last time we've seen Collier inside the octagon was UFC Norfolk 2017 in the latter half of the year. So Collier is moving up to heavyweight here. I do think that he can make it a fight on the feet. Collier is a very striker who fights at a high pace, but there are some question marks on him certainly. So due to the red flags, I'm going to side with Tom here despite the UFC debut. I do think he looks solid from the tape, but again, one where I would not be surprised to see if this fight goes beyond like the first or second round, he gets pushed from Collier to potentially overwhelm him down the stretch. So as the betting odds currently sit, Tom is a minus 225 favorite to come back on Collier's plus 185. So there's certainly question marks on both sides, but I'm going to lean with Tom here.
Collier used to fight at middleweight, man. A lot of his UFC tenure has come at 185 pounds. I don't know really off the top of my head what the size discrepancy is going to be. I mean, Collier's 6'3", though. Man, how do you make 185 at 6'3"? Collier's 6'3", Aspinall is 6'5". I'm going to go with Aspinall. Marcel?
Yeah, I go too with Aspinall, man. I mean, Jake, Matt Wyman, absence, Collier. And now at heavyweight, man, I mean, I was kind of shocked when I saw that. I remember that fight was, I think Aspinall was booked against Rafael Pessoa in London. And then out of nowhere on ESPN Fight Center, we saw Aspinall against Jay Collier, and I was like, is this a mistake or something, or whatever? But it was real, at heavyweight. I didn't expect that. It's been a long time since we saw Jay Collier. Tom Aspinall, it's pretty hard to say, man, how good he really is, man. He has that win over Sofian Bukishu, but Rourke at Aris also has that win, and Rourke was 0-0 coming into that fight, and he made it look easy. So, I'm taking Aspinall in this one, pure maybe because Collier hasn't fought for a long time, and I think Aspinall will probably land a bomb somewhere in his first or second round. So I'm taking Aspinall by stoppage in the second round here.
Moving our way up the prelims as close as we can to the top at the 7th fight on the card, and still not quite at the featured prelim in welterweight, or at welterweight in the welterweight division. I reversed both of those. Nicholas Dalby and Jesse Ronson. Now, those that don't remember, Jesse Ronson last year was supposed to come in and fight, I believe it was Carlos Diego Ferreira, right? Yes, Carlos Diego Ferreira. That was 2 years ago, technically, or close to 2 years. Ronson was unable to make weight. Ferreira fought somebody else. I think it was Nelson. But regardless, that doesn't matter to the large part of the conversation. Ronson now comes in here with another shot since he has been fighting since that has happened. Only 1-2 since that's happened. You see that they're trying to pick guys off as much as they can on the international scene to pick up some of these fights. I can't remember whether or not Dalby had another opponent. AJ, I'll let you kick this one off. Dalby versus Ronson.
Yeah, it was initially supposed to be Dalby versus Danny Roberts, so like some other fighters on this card, it's a shorter notice fight for Ronson, and it's up a weight class here. Like you said, he already had a stint with the UFC, and it was just a really, against high-level competition, Trinaldo, Caceres, Kevin Lee, that is not easy for 155 pounds by any means. And he's facing a guy here, Nicholas Dalby, who also had a first stint with the UFC, and now is back and looked good in front of his home country last time against Alex Oliveira there. So I just think that, Dalby being the favorite here, minus 255, and the comeback on Ronson is plus 215. I think Dalby being the favorite is justified just due to the physicality advantage that he'll have. And also he's just had more time to prepare. And I just think that, the physicality should really be compelling in the clinching and grappling exchanges, because Dalby is a good grappler. He's a black belt, Henry serves. He definitely showcased that in that last bout against a very physical Alex Oliveira. And we know from just watching Dalby that the guy's tough as nails and tough to, stop. Then and there with guys like Darren Till. So I think that Dalby probably grinds him out in a decision scenario where Ronson makes a valiant effort, but I'm going to favor Dalby here to win rounds.
Nicholas Dalby unbeaten in his last 5, coming right off the heels of the split decision to Carlo Pedersoli. Marcel, throw it to you.
I have nothing to add to what AJ said, man. I'm fully backing him in this one.
I back it too. I like Dalby to win this fight. So moving up, we now have this fight was really kind of formulated kind of late, but we see it here in the featured prelim slot. This one is a mouth-watering one too, I must say. This one and the Evloev one have got to be my two favorite. This one and Evloev Grundy have got to be my two favorite prelims. Francisco Trinaldo, that is, Masuran Duba taking on Jai Herbert, the former Cage Warriors lightweight champion. Herbert looking to spring the upset here, standing at 6'1" at lightweight. I know he'll have the size advantage on Trinaldo. Marcel, I'll let you kick this one off.
Yeah, this is a very difficult fight to pick, man, because I've been thinking about this for a few days now. Trinaldo, he's a solid dude, man. I think he's very good, but when he gets that level up, it's not there for him, He is on a 2-fight winning streak. He should have been maybe on a 4th fight, because I think he definitely won the fight against Alexander Hernandez. Then we got Jai Herbert on the other side. Good fighter coming from Cage Warriors. He was the champion over there, defeating King Carrizosa in his most recent fight, a former UFC fighter. This is actually, do you ride the momentum of Jai Herbert coming in the UFC, getting the debut win, or do you go with the experience of Francisco Trinaldo? I think it's very hard to say, but I think Trinaldo is a stand-up fighter. Jay wants to fight, and I think the reach advantage of Jai is going to get a big difference in this one. So I'm taking Jai Herbert. I think he takes a unanimous decision winner.
I am agreeing with Marcel. I have the upset here as well. I like Herbert to win this fight. AJ, you have anything else to add?
Kind of reminds me of Ozdemir versus Pashka a couple weeks ago, just in a way, you know. Proven veteran UFC guy against Herbert. He's got some hype on him, like you guys said. I do think Herbert is solid. I think he'll have a speed advantage here. He looks like a good striker, and that could potentially just be enough to beat Trinaldo just by being faster, more effective striker. I do think that Trinaldo has a path to victory in the grappling and wrestling department. I have seen Herbert taken down. I have seen him control, give up his back. And so that would be the path least resistance for Trinaldo to take. However, Trinaldo just doesn't always show the most urgency to go for takedowns. Now, there's always the potential that changes here, considering that his camp may see that on tape. But in the strikers battle, I definitely do see where you guys are coming from. Herbert is live. He's a good striker. Trinaldo is very tough to put away, so I wouldn't be all that surprised to see a go-to decision, despite the fact that both guys are proven finishers. And just like you guys said, it should be a fun fight on the prelims. Really looking forward to this one. I should be up on my feet.
Couldn't agree more. I like this fight a lot. We're moving on. A guy that holds the lone defeat in the career of Mr. Jai Herbert took a very dangerous fight leading into this week. Khamzat Chimaev said last week that he would like to get on another card, and they rewarded him. And not only that, put him as the first fight on the main card. Marcel, I'll ask you a question.
Yeah.
Does that tell you something? Because I know you really, as you specialize in getting these fights out onto Twitter as well as you do, I know you put a lot of stock too into the order of the card as well, and like how everything is configured. Did that surprise you when they came out and said, "Hey, we're gonna have a 7-fight main card just because this guy wanted on it"? Does that surprise you at all?
Yeah, the recent hype he got with him, it's actually not surprising at all.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm not surprised, honestly, man. So
No, me neither. That's what I'm saying. I mean, this guy looked that good, and he looked so good on the regional scene too, guys. Do you know? Yeah. People need to understand this. Do you know the guy he just beat before he came into the UFC? I'm gonna absolutely botch his name. Mizwandil Halangla, right?
Yeah.
That's the dude, Marcel, you know who that is? That's the dude that scored the AJ, I know you've seen this knockout. The one in, I think it was EFC or like the one in South Africa where he like hit him with the spinning back fist and then came around and hit him with the 2-piece after, and the dude is literally out on his feet and falls over. Yeah. Chimaev ran through that guy too. Ran through him, ran through Sidney Wheeler, who a lot of people in America considered a good prospect, ran through an undefeated fighter, Marko Kisic, ran through an undefeated fighter in Ikram Aliskerov. He is good, man. He is really good. That's the point I'm really trying to make here ultimately. He is really, really good.
Can you imagine that he went to Abu Dhabi in hopes of getting a short notice fight? He wasn't signed. He hoped that somebody dropped out so he could fall in. And
he could be 2-0 in the UFC in 10 days.
Yeah.
And he's favored to do so on a large margin, minus 900. Man. Yeah. AJ, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, biggest favorite on the card. If he wasn't secret before, he definitely is not now. Like you guys touched on, the guy is really solid. And he'll have a size advantage here. You know, that fight against Phillips was at 185.
Oh, yeah, it's a welterweight. I forgot about that.
And McKee is a gentleman who has fought at 155 pounds in the past. So we could see Chimaev have an even more imposing physical advantage here, especially what you'd be telling in the grappling and wrestling. So I don't know if there's too much for me to add on a fighter that is a minus 1100 favorite. The guy's obviously a stud. Just would like to add one more thing. I really like how he trains with fighters like Alexander Gustafsson, the Tamor brothers, Reza Madadi. I think that's going to pay dividends to train with fighters that have been in the UFC with an abundance of experience. So just like many other people, really like this guy and excited to see how he performs here.
So this would beat Chaz Skelly's record, right? Of 2 wins in a span of time. Chaz Skelly beat I'm gonna absolutely botch this name too. Tom Ninimaki and Sean Soriano on a span of what looks like 13 days. This is 10 days. Oh my god. I like Chimaev by sub, by TKO. He could do it either way. It doesn't matter. Pick your poison. Marcel, do you agree?
Yeah, man. I mean, I saw the clip of Rich McKee being very happy he was signed, and that he's like, who I'm fighting. And his manager is like, comes up. He's like, don't know, don't care, let's fight. And that's a good thing, you know. You shouldn't care who you fight, you should just fight. But I hope you watch some tape study, man, because man, this is not a guy you don't want to know who you fight, because
yeah,
comes at Chimaev, man. He looked great and brave already, man. I mean, the UFC sometimes signs people with like 22-0 records, and then you look who they beat. 0-0, 0-1, 0-0, 0-1, 0-1, 0-0, 0-1.
A lot of Brazilians like that.
Yeah, exactly. And this guy has beat some solid competition, man. And we saw John Phillips was totally outclassed by him, you know. Mm-hmm. So definitely
technically
Chimaev
upper weight class, man.
Also, yeah, Chimaev. Give him to me round 1 submission.
Yeah, I got him too. Moving up, we got at 170, Alex Cowboy Oliveira and Peter Sabata. Sabata has been inactive as of lately. His last fight, I believe, was at UFC London 2018, where he lost to Leon Edwards at what was a BS stoppage, if I could add that, because I had Edwards by decision on a prop. I was not happy at all that the ref stopped that fight at the very last second for no reason. However, I digress. Oliveira and Sabata should be an interesting one. AJ, I will let you go ahead and take this one away.
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup. Like you said, Sabata just adding to that shrine of fighters that have just been very inactive. This is a matchup though that he could win. You know, I'm looking at his Instagram. He's training really hard, and I expect him to come in good shape here. He is a Dean Lester black belt, which is very, very impressive, obviously. And, you know, if you want to take at least a path release resistance against Oliveira, it's something like that. Take him down, pass the guard, and look to get the submission like fighters in the past, such as Gunnar Nelson and Gilbert Burns is able to do. Obviously, taking Oliveira down is easier said than done because the guy is very physically strong, especially in the clinch. But I do think Sabata is capable. He currently only sits at a plus 150 underdog. This is a very action-packed fight, though. Both guys do have that high action style. You mentioned the Leon Edwards fight. That fight was pretty back and forth for as long as it lasted. And Oliveira just his recent performances kind of make me question as to where exactly he's at. You know, prior to the split decision win against Max Griffin, there was a 3-fight losing skid, and albeit it was a solid competition, but this is one where I would not be surprised to see Sabata win. I understand, you know, Oliveira being the favorite, considering that he's just been much more active, and we've been seeing a lot more of him. We kind of know more where he's at, what we're getting out of him in recent fights, but this should be a fun one. I'm looking forward to it.
Me as well. Marcel?
This is the battle of the inconsistent fighters, this one, man. I mean, this is so hard to pick who's gonna win here. Oliveira can look like the next big thing, and then the next fight he looks like a total, what do you say? Just bad, you know. And Sabata, for example, he got a win over Nicholas Dalby where I was live in Hamburg a few years ago, which I really didn't give a penny for him before that fight, to win that fight. And he dominated Dalby on the ground. I was like, what the hell is this, you know? And then he went back for a few, I didn't saw him for a few years. And then he had a 2-fight win streak. I think he lost to Noke in between as well. But then he got the loss against Atlas, like you said. Very hard fight to pick. But for example, for some reason, I'm kind of leaning towards Oliveira. Although I see Sabata winning this one as well. It's a 50-50 fight to me. I'm going with a split decision here. I'm thinking for Oliveira split decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if Sabata wins. So I'm kind of agreeing with AJ on this one. It's a close fight. I can see people picking Sabata in this one, and I think the value is on Sabata in this one as well. So, but I'm going with Oliveira.
I'm riding the same boat again. I mean, I agree with pretty much everything that was said. Sabata can win this fight, but I'm gonna ride with what I think is the safe pick, Oliveira by decision. Oh man, we got Paul Craig on a fight card, ladies and gentlemen, and Paul Craig likes to stare at people like he's mad at them. And Gadzhimurad and Tigilov will probably get that treatment this week, and I can't wait to see it. It doesn't matter to me. I really came to a realization over the past week. Paul Craig's one of my favorite humans. I think that's a fact. I think he was very valiant and noble with how he stared right at Alonzo Benefield and swiftly got knocked the hell out afterwards. I think that was very proud. Yes.
You Americans have to learn how to say his last name.
What? Whose last name?
Paul Craig.
Paul Craig. Paul Craig. Yeah. Paul Craig. Paul Craig, the Bear Jew. AJ, I'll let you throw this one off. This is actually kind of an interesting stylistic fight between him and Antigulov.
It is, and I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name because I've been pronouncing it wrong this whole time too. So you're not alone with it. But yeah, this, like you said, I'm really excited for this one. Paul Craig always brings it for lack of better words. And Antigulov is that guy that wants to go out there, get that finish right away. If he's unsuccessful, he tends to tire out quickly. And we've seen Paul Craig in the past multiple times have those come from behind finishes late in the fight, referring to his fights against Ankalaev and Kennedy. So really looking forward to this one. These are two guys that specialize the most in submission grappling. One where I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see Antigulov take down Paul Craig and submit him right away. You know, despite the fact that Paul does have some grappling chops off his back, no doubt. Just looking at fights like Jim Cruz, even Mauricio Shogun Rua, a superior, more physically imposing wrestler in top position, can pass the guard of Craig and look to get the submission. But one where I would not be surprised to see either fighter win. The odds indicate that it is a close fight. Craig currently sits at minus 115, come back on Antigulov minus 105 pick him. So I think this is a fan-friendly fight, one where a finish likely materializes. The odds say that. My analysis suggested as well. So I really like this one, and as always, we should get a fight here where Paul Craig walks in the middle of the octagon and stares down the opponent, as he said.
Can't wait for that. Paul Craig and Gadzimurad Antigulov, ladies and gentlemen. Marcel, go ahead and take it away.
First of all, AJ never bring that Ankalaev one again up.
Dude, that was so awesome, though.
Yeah,
you don't agree? You don't agree?
Yeah, also for Paul Craig and for the Scottish, definitely, man. But man, I was salty as fuck about that, man, because Ankalaev has that one loss on his record, which definitely shouldn't have been there. But yeah, whatever.
Man, what was the strike count? 130 to 12?
Crazy, man.
Just something insane. I'm gonna look it up just to fact check it. Go ahead, though.
So, Paul Craig, yeah, you know what you get with him, you know? He's gonna try to go to the ground and scramble a lot and try to get you in the finish. And Antigulov, I was kinda impressed by him when he's entered the UFC, but he seems to fade after a few minutes normally, and then he just, and Paul Craig, if he doesn't fade, he normally wins later, you know, and if he doesn't when he gets knocked out in the first. So, it's pretty much, does Antigulov knock him out in the first? No, doesn't that happen? It's Paul Craig's thing, I think. And I don't think Antigulov knocks him out, so I'm going with Paul Craig by a third round submission again.
Paul Craig. I think, I remember it being more widespread than this. It says, according to UFC stats, it was just 89 to 34. I thought it was way worse than that for some reason. Guess not. I like Antigulov, though.
He likes you too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that Gadzimurad Antigulov likes me too. Even though whoever decided to spell his name or make it that hard to spell sucks. Regardless. We move along to a fight at strawweight. Carlos Garza and Marina Rodriguez. I love watching Marina Rodriguez fight, very much. She's so fun to watch. I thought that she had Cynthia Calvillo in a lot of trouble, and she's going to try to move on up the ranks and get past that bug that she's had with scoring draws, man. Those suck. 2 of them. She still hasn't lost. AJ, I'll let you go ahead and start this one off.
Yeah, I like Marina. Think she's a really good prospect. Her striking is excellent. Really strong in the clinch. Threatening, very technical, checks so many boxes in terms of striking just in general. And this is an interesting matchup against Esparza because Esparza certainly has been tested more against the women in the various ranks of this weight class. And Esparza brings the style that Marina struggles with the most, and I'm referring to the takedown game. Looking at her fight against Cynthia Calvillo attempted 4 takedowns, got 3 of them. You mentioned the draw, and yeah, it's because Marina had won the first 2 rounds, and then that third round was a 10-8 in favor of Calvillo. And similar to the Marcos fight, Marcos took her down twice out of 4 attempts, and we saw in Esparza's fights against Calvillo and Marcos that she was able to have a lot of success wrestling against both those women, especially Marcos. So I could see Esparza landing takedowns here. It kind of just depends on how much top control time she earns and what she does in top control to be significant enough to swing rounds. Because on the feet, I think it's going to be Rodriguez by pretty wide margin here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So truly a wrestler, grappler versus a striker matchup, and one where I think is highly anticipated. So looking forward to it.
Esparza's going to have to make this one dirty. No doubt about it. Rodriguez is 5 inches taller than her, despite the only 2-inch advantage in reach. Marcel, go right on ahead.
I think Esparza has looked pretty good in her standing lately. When she started in the UFC, she was a pure wrestler, but she has developed. Rodriguez, very good striker, like AJ said. Ground game, not that great, also not that bad, but I wasn't impressed with her ground game so far. And I think that's the key, man. I think if she can keep it standing, she will definitely win against Esparza because her striking is better. But I haven't seen many people who can keep it standing with Esparza, except for JJ in the beginning, So Esparza will definitely land a takedown at some point, I think. I hope for her it's early, because if it's only the 3rd round, she probably has lost the first 2. So it's a hard thing to say, but I'm leaning towards Esparza. I think her experience will do a lot here, and I think Esparza takes home the unanimous decision win via heavy wrestling.
We gotta get a bell that we can ring whenever that we don't agree on a pick. Like, dun, dun, dun. Rodriguez is my pick for sure by decision. Verdum and Gustafsson is interesting to me for a myriad of reasons. A, I think it should be the co-main event. B, I think obviously Gustafsson moving up a weight class is an interesting factoid to throw into it. And C, Verdum may have looked as bad as I've ever seen him look in his last fight. Marcel, do you agree?
I still think he won that fight, although he looked bad. Everybody
he
says
looked
he
terrible.
looked bad. He looked terrible. Everybody says it, and I agree, but I still think he won that fight 2-1 against Oldemir. But yeah, whatever, That was not a great fight. We see where. Do you want me to take it up, or what do you want?
Of course.
Oh, okay. That's so nice of you, man. So Verdum, listen, man, Verdum hasn't looked the same since his suspension, and he had one fight against Oldemir, didn't look good at all, but I still think he won. Gustafsson was retired, like many fighters, and came back. Now at heavyweight, I think he can do work at heavyweight, man. He will be more probably, how do you say that? He's quicker than most heavyweights, he has a good cardio. He fought 5 rounds before, at light heavyweight. He can hang with the best guys over there. Why not at heavyweight, where I think the talents are lesser than at light heavyweight? So I'm taking Gustafsson in this one. If he doesn't do some stupid shit, lands under Verdum and gets submitted, he has this all day over Verdum, man. I take Gustafsson via knockout in the first round. Only if he goes to the ground with him, acting stupid and gets submitted, then he will lose. But I don't see that happening.
Gustafsson still even moving up in weight class, an inch advantage in height and 2 inches in reach. AJ, your takes?
Yeah, Gustafsson currently minus 340 favorite. The comeback on Verdum is plus 280. Looked like, yeah, you guys said it. Verdum, that first fight back was a huge concern. That was a very winnable matchup for him on paper, and I tend to see the argument where, like, you could say he won. My concern, though, is that fight should not have been as close as it was, considering he had so many stylistic advantages on paper, and that's a big red flag. Because, like you said, Gustafsson, I just think is a much better striker. I have question marks. There's question marks, I think, too, obviously. You mentioned their retirement, moving up to heavyweight. I'm just kind of questioning as to where he's at. His takedown defense should be good enough to keep the fight standing on paper, although the physicality of Verdum could perhaps play a factor. And honestly, the whole Anthony Smith fight kind of makes me concerned about Gustafsson, because he was winning that fight, doing well in the striking exchanges, and then Smith was able to hop on his back and scramble and then choke him out. So that's not the most like predictable sequence, I guess, for just like going forward. But like if Werdum gets on his back at any point in this fight, I do think that he very likely gets the sub. But more than likely, this fight should remain standing for the majority of the time. Where Gustafsson, like you said, is just a better striker, more technical, more varied. Just trust him a little bit more on the feet, durability wise as well. So, and also more defensively responsible. So, I tend to side with Gustafsson here too, but there's certainly some red flags on both sides here. So I'm interested to see exactly how they look. Perhaps the Werdum one was the layoff, but I still do question as to where exactly he's at.
Dude, he's 42? He's gonna be 43 here in a few weeks. I mean, I like Gustafsson as well. I'm gonna go with Gustafsson here. I think he gets it done. It might go to decision. I don't know if I've solidified myself in that space, but I am gonna go with Gustafsson. Shogun, Lil Nog 3. Yay. Co-main event. AJ.
Yeah, so this is the trilogy. This is interesting. You know, we talked about bout order last time. It really makes no difference. I'm just glad that we got a good main card here. But, yeah, this is interesting. Both guys, at this stage of their career, they're not as durable as say they were when they squared off the first time. And they do certainly still both pack a lot of power in their hands. We saw Nogueira here knock out San Elvi not too long ago, and Rua has historically been known for having heavy hands. Both guys are very good submission grapplers. So, should be a fun back and forth fight. I've seen some people say that the trilogy is unwarranted, or warranted, whichever way you want to argue it. But I think this is an interesting booking considering where both guys are at in their careers. One where it probably ends in a finish, but wouldn't be surprised to see both guys kind of like clinch up, wear each other down on a stretch, and we maybe see a decision despite their respective reputations of finishing. So I'm actually pretty intrigued with this fight to see how it plays out.
I mean, and to be honest with you, coming into this fight, I mean, Nogueira's struggles recently have been lamented. Shogun, outside of a draw against Paul Craig, is unbeaten in 5 of his last 6. So you make that a win against Paul Craig, that's 5 wins out of your last 6. I mean, hey, not a lot of respect being given, I don't think. Even by myself, with my sarcastic yays and such. Marcel, go ahead and take it forward.
Yeah, so this fight got originally scooped pretty much by the Steve O podcast, which Dana White announced it on, which is pretty funny in my opinion. Nothing really much to say about this, man. I think Shogun still can do some heavy work, and then I think Nogueira is kind of done in my opinion, man. I really like him. I always liked the Nogueira brothers. They were great, definitely in the Pride days, I think. Rodrigo was obviously the guy back then in Pride, when then came Fedor, but Rogerio also did very good, I think. And Rogerio arguably did better than Rodrigo in the UFC. So, man, I'm taking Shogun. I think Shogun finishes this fight, honestly, man. I have Shogun via TKO in the second round. I think Shogun will finish the fight, and I think Rogerio Nogueira will retire after this fight, honestly.
I think, didn't he say he's retiring?
Yeah, he said that.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Then I think he's definitely going to retire after this fight.
Win or lose, I think.
Win, draw, lose, yeah.
You don't want to have another draw stacked up after your first draw against Paul Craig. You definitely don't want to have that happen. Robert Whittaker, Darren Till. That's what obviously most people would have come here to listen to hear about. We're about 54 minutes and change into the recording without any talk of it, and man, am I so excited about it. Robert Whittaker, coming off obviously the loss of his title belt. He is in the orthodox stance. Darren Till in the southpaw stance. Virtually identical if you want to channel your inner Mike G as far as the height and reach are concerned. Till just with a half-inch edge and reach. Go ahead and kick this one off, Marcel. What excites you about this fight?
Yeah, it's a fun fight, man. I think styles make fights, and Whittaker, I've been very big fan of Robert Whittaker since he won the Ultimate Fighter. Was it the Smashes, I think? Or was it the Nations? The Smashes or the Nations? One of the two.
It was the Smashes.
Yeah. I was very impressed by him back then already, and I always love it when he wins. he does that chest thing, and he has still a little red spot over here. So it's always
Aussie while he's beating his chest too.
Exactly.
Fired up.
A very fun fighter to watch. When he made that transition from welterweight to middleweight, it actually came out together for him, And he lost to Adesanya recently in a fight. I don't think he did that bad until he got really hit bad by Adesanya, and it was over. Darren Till, I like Darren Till, but I find him a tad bit overrated as far as people pointing him as the next best big thing. Because I think his ground game has a lot of work still to do. I think his stand-up is pretty fun to watch. He's also a very cool guy. I met him in person, very nice person as well. He's a very fun fighter, fun-friendly to watch, I think. A very impressive win over Gastelum, man. I think it was a split, should have been unanimous. I have to go with Whittaker in this one, man. I think Phil definitely can win this fight, but Whittaker is more all round, has just a more complete game than Darren Till, So, I'm picking Whittaker via a unanimous decision win, but it will be a fun fight. I will definitely fight, I will watch live at 6 a.m. local time.
You sound excited.
And I just can't hide it. I don't want to lose.
There you go. I'm gonna have to agree with you again. So only, I think, 2 disagreements pick-wise between Team Davidson, aka the good guys, and Team Marcell, aka the bad guys, today. I think, and those disagreements came Marina Rodriguez for me, and Rafael Pessoa for me, right? Otherwise, we're pretty much the same. Up to a 15-fight card. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at us. AJ, you got it. You got anything to add on this main event? There's so many things to like about this main event. When I watched film this week, it was mostly comprised of these 2 guys, right? And Whittaker, until the performance that pops to me, even though it isn't as recent, is the performance that pretty much I think popped to everybody. And that's the cowboy fight, for Till. I mean, you see this dude at 170 pounds, big, wide-bodied stance, rangy, just an absolute massive. I mean, Dan Hardy says it right off the gun. I mean, he looks like an oversized middleweight. And I mean, here we are. Like I said, I do have to agree with Marcel's sentiment. I do like Robert Whittaker, though. AJ, your thoughts on this main event?
Yeah, it's interesting. To Marcel's point, I thought Whittaker looked pretty solid there against Adesanya outside of like 2 knockdowns. The fight was actually really competitive outside of the damage that Adesanya knocked him down with. My thing with Whittaker is I'm just kind of concerned about where he's at, kind of like what we talked about with Kelvin Gastelum last week. Like, he said like he was burnt out. He's just been fighting so infrequently with injuries, unfortunately. The guy, like you said, is just a treat to watch. I'm a huge fan of him too. And just like the damage that he's taken in recent fights, the Romero fight, and the Adesanya fight. And so this one is one where I do understand the odds being competitive. I do think Hill is really solid. I just think that, his losses are kind of circumstantial. Like, he was doing pretty well against Masvidal and dropping there in that first round. And then he just had a tendency to kind of drop his hands and then just not, roll with the punches to say as good as he could have. I guess the thing with him moving up to 155 is like, yeah, he's not as physically imposing as he was at 170. However, it can in theory help his durability and his cardio. So it's kind of like, 2 different things there. Like a trade-off, if you will. So this should be a fun fight. Very technical strikers, very crafty strikers. They're both gentlemen, hit hard. Whittaker's been on record to say that, and Till I'm sure has too. But I'm really looking forward to this one. High-level main event, and I think if Till wins, we could see him get Adesanya after Costa gets his chance. And if Whittaker wins, maybe he needs one more win before doing so. But certainly there are some very hefty implications here with this fight as it is.
And understandably so, a very interesting fight, nonetheless, as well as an exciting fight. I think it's going to prove to be just as much. So we have some picks for our kind of unperceived awards here. Picks for fight of the night. I'll go ahead and start, and I'll go a little bit off the grid here. A fight that we said we all loved right off the top. Evloev and Grundy is my pick for fight of the night. Which one of you wants to go ahead and step up to the plate next after I just drop that fire?
You
I'll
probably
go with
told me.
Oliveira. Go ahead, Marcel.
He said Max, so I don't know who he was.
No, it does. No, I didn't say Max. Did I say Max?
Yeah.
I didn't say Max. No, I didn't. Did I say Max, AJ?
I don't know.
I don't think I did.
Smart answer.
As you say, whoever wants to step up to the plate. That's some fire I just dropped,
You go,
man. That's
AJ.
going way. I'm going way off the grid here.
All right. I like the pick. I'm gonna pick Oliveira and Sabota. I think that it has the perfect to be fire, just like a lot of Oliveira's fights. So that'd be my pick.
Okay, I'm going with Jai Herbert against Francisco Trinaldo.
That was what I was thinking too. I mean, all three of those have high potential for fight of the night. Performance of the night. I mean, what do you say? I got Chimaev and I've got
Sunshine on a cloudy day.
Let's go with Nathaniel Wood. First fight of the night. Chimaev and Wood. AJ?
I'm gonna give a second to Chimaev, and I also will pick Alexander Gustafsson.
Marcel.
I'm going with Paul Craig and with Shogun.
Oh, so you picked Paul Craig, right? So then there's 3 disagreements we had. All right.
Oh.
So I got into you love. Backup performance of the night in case they have the other 2. I guess I'll go with Gustafsson as well. I'll go with Marina Rodriguez. AJ? If you've got 2 more.
Oh, 2 more. I'll go with I like Mauricio Shogun-Tua, and I will also go with Darren Till.
Good stuff. Lock of the night. Or no, 2 more for you, Marcel.
Chimaev Gustafsson.
Lock of the night. Dude, it's hard to find a lock here outside of Chimaev. He's the only one. I think Wood would be my next closest. What do you got?
Chimaev as well.
Chimaev.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty easy unanimous draw there. And then underdog of the night. Well, I mean, of my picks, I think both of us took Jai Herbert, Marcel.
Yeah, you can let AJ say who the underdogs are.
Yeah, but do you want to go that route with your picks and what you do with Oddsbreaker, AJ?
I'll leave it to you guys with the.
Yeah, I was about to say we'll go ahead and take that one. I got Jai Herbert.
Yeah, I don't know which underdog I picked also. I need to have that info.
You got Herbert. I mean, Antigulov and Craig are pretty even. Esparza's an underdog.
Give me Esparza. It's okay.
Till and Whittaker is pretty much even as well too right now. Now that I see.
You can give me Esparza.
All right. Sounds good. Well, that just about does it here for the first breakdown with the trio of us here for the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network. My name is Davidson Baker. Once again, we'll do these like little short plugs as we get out of here. You can find my content at Fansided and Loudmouth MMA as well as mine and AJ's preview shows. Jesus, man. Weekly on my social media and on Apple Podcasts and Spotify at the bottom line. AJ, go ahead. Let them know where they can find your great work.
Yeah, if you found on Twitter at AJ MMA Betting. I could also be found on Instagram on the same handle. Yeah, I'm on MMA Oddsbreaker as well. I do some content, articles, video breakdowns, and my premium bets, my premium betting service that I have. So that can be found at AJ's ActionPackSportsBets.com, or once again MMA Oddsbreaker on there amongst a few other very talented manufacturers.
Mr. Marcel, people know where to find you, right?
If you say so. MMADNA.nl, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and my personal account, Marcell24, Instagram and Twitter.
That'll do it for our first breakdown show. We'll be back next week. No, is it in 2 weeks?
Next week.
Is the UFC? Are they back
against Aldana? August 1st.
Is August 1st next week?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Yeah, it is, because today's Monday. And today's the 20th. I really had a lapse in judgment right there. Yeah, August 1st is next week. That's coming up so fast, dude, because my birthday's August 4th. I just don't realize how quickly it's coming up. I will be here for that breakdown, yeah, but 2 weeks I might be taking the show on the road. Dude, is Lewis and Olynyk happening or not?
Yes, it's happening, man, but I don't know why it's not announced yet. But there are like 10 fights on their card already, 11, so.
I swear.
Only 2.
All right. We'll go ahead and get out of here. Thank you guys so much for listening. Keep go ahead listening to this content here at the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network. For these two gentlemen and myself, we will see you next week.